boy Johnny from Del Valle Skywatch. Always awoke, paying attention, trying to figure things out. Seems like the more that I stumble across, the less I know, if that makes any sense. Definitely, I think most will agree that the more awakened you become, the weirder this world gets. I mean, it's that simple. I'm on my way to have a tooth pulled. My tooth was giving me really bad problems 2 weeks ago. I mean, pain like I've never had before. Of course, I did my diligence and researched and found out that rotted out teeth is definitely a symptom from being targeted from electronic harassment. You know, I mean, what can I do? You know, I'm not going to walk around with a freaking Faraday cage over my head. So there's that. I don't know if you can see my skylight in my truck, but another rainy day here. Another overcast, shitty, gray day. That is the norm now, people. Blue skies and the sun, at least in this area, in Philadelphia and South Jersey, where I grew up. The spraying and the, I don't even want to call it geoengineering, because to me that's a fucking bullshit Dane Wigington gatekeeper term. What I see going on with my two eyes is supernatural. It's not done. I mean, listen, what I mean by that is it's done by technology that we don't know about. We aren't privy to. It's interdimensional. These planes will just appear out of nowhere, and they're not planes. You might think they're planes. They're not friggin' planes. They just pose as planes in the sky. Me personally, I believe they're actual entities, some kind of strange thought form, or I don't even know how to put it, interdimensional. Somehow they were able to punch through the veil. And somehow they're able to manipulate this reality in certain ways. Archons. That's my perfect example for what these things are. Archons. The chemtrailing is definitely archonic, 100%. Is there elements of humans involved in it? Yeah, possibly. Because all you need to do to be on board is understand that the technology we are privy to is at least a decade behind what they actually have access to. So all this shit you're reading about human cloning, they probably already have it. Matter of fact, I'm certain they already have it. I'm watching this show called Altered Carbon on Netflix, and I never watch TV. I mean, never. But this show caught my eye because it's about sleeves downloading consciousness into a recently dead sleeve. I mean, it's mind-blowing. It's really mind-blowing where we're at as a race right now. I mean, we really are on the precipice of becoming gods. As scary as that shit sounds. Now, I want to reflect on a few things. First of all, I've been ranting about the blind faith of a lot of Christians. To which I say to you, I challenge you to go back to your Bible and really dig into it. Get to the meat and potatoes. Alright? And I'll give you guys verses if you want to back up what I'm saying. But you will discover through your readings and your research that what I am saying is true. That the God of the Old Testament is the demiurge. If you never heard that term before, you need to do some Gnostic homework. Essentially, the God of the Old Testament is Satan, the adversary. Blasphemy! I can't believe he said that! I hear it all the time. Burn in hell, you piece of shit, blah, blah, blah. Because I'm telling truth. I get told to burn in hell by other Christians. It's hilarious. Burn in hell, they tell me. Is that what Jesus would have done? What happened to turn the other cheek or love thy neighbor? Because they're all hypocritical, fake-ass Christians. Mark Passio does a great lecture on fake-ass Christians. Are you a fake-ass Christian? Ask yourself that. Because I have no time for any of you fucking people. You can come on my comments and shoot all the hatred and negativity you want. I won't answer you. I'll answer you on here. And I will debate any one of you anytime I open it up to the world. Anytime. You come on my comments, you ask me for a debate, I will debate you. And I will crush you. Trust me on that. I will crush you. I could cite 50 instances off the top of my head how evil the Old Testament is. Straight up evil. You heard me. The God you were told is all good, it's reversed. It's flip-flopped. Why would you think it's any different? Look at the world around you. Everything you've been told is a lie. Why would you think the most important thing isn't a lie? Why? See, there's a little system set up here, set up by the archonic beings or demons or whatever you want to call them. Jinn, demons, archons, they're all the same. And what they do is they feed off of our energy like parasites, off our negative energy. Not off our positive, off our negative. And there's all kinds of systems put in place for you to be dumbed down and stupid, and the illusion is so strong that most of the time, when I come at Christians with this information, they are so fucking programmed by what they are told, they can't fathom it. Let me tell you what, this has been a lonely journey. Very, very, very lonely and very tough. Do you think this is a journey that I wanted to go on? I was raised born-again Christian from the time I was 5 years old. Shit, all the way up. I went to Christian school till 8th grade. And I went to a public high school. And I was done with religion for a while. And when I became awake, I started going back to Christianity because of prophetic events I seen happening. But why? The world is a stage. And who's to say that they aren't fulfilling these prophecies on purpose? The elites are making this happen on purpose to fool so many people. So you got to understand the big picture. And a problem I have with the Judeo-Christian viewpoint, it's very narrow. I can blow the argument out of the water with one question. If God had such an important message for humanity, the most important message he could have ever possibly dreamed of, that you can only get to source by accepting Jesus Christ as Savior, then why is it for over 1900 years that message was not made available to every human being on this planet? And spare me the bullshit and now possibly. I still don't think every human being on the planet has access to that information, but with the internet is definitely more feasible. So why was that information only made available to a small section of the Middle East, Europe, and North Africa? None of the Africans ever heard of his name, none of the North Americans, South Americans. And when they finally did hear his name, who brought his name? And what did their actions bring? Christopher Columbus, which it's an atrocity. We have a holiday named after this man. If you do any research on him, you will realize what an evil, greedy piece of shit he was. The conquistadors, Cortez, De Soto, what was his name? Francisco Pizarro. These men came to South America and did the furthest things from Christianity you could imagine. Cutting natives' hands off because they wouldn't show them where gold was, and all kinds of atrocities. It really is exhausting trying to convince other Christians that the Old Testament God is evil. It's exhausting. I bang my head against the wall. So this message is going to be for those of you who are open-minded enough to look into what I am saying. Don't take what I'm saying for granted. Look into it for yourself. I'll be more than happy to present you with enough Bible verses to make your head spin. Well, you will ask yourself, my God, what have I been worshiping this entire time? And my problem with Jesus and with Yeshua, once again, I don't have a problem with his message. I have a problem with the whole hell bit in the lake of fire in the book of Revelations. Sounds a lot to me like the Yahweh of the Old Testament. That book right there, Revelation, is the one book in the New Testament that I take issue with. And here comes more griping. You know, I know, prophecy. Let me ask you guys this. As bad as the world is, why wouldn't Jesus save us now? Why would he wait and 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 wait? I mean, how much evil has to be around us before he comes back? You know? Let me ask you another question. If you were given omnipotency, all-knowingness, and all-goodness, and you were allowed to do whatever you wanted on this world, do you think you could do a better job than Yahweh? Think about that. If a genie was to grant you, or a jinn, because that's what the Jinn of the Old were genies. If the jinn were to grant you all-knowing, or whoever, you know, this is just, obviously this is never going to happen. Well, who knows, it might happen with this whole transhumanism bullshit, but if you were granted omnipotence and all goodness, don't you think you could do a better job with this world than Yahweh has done? You're goddamn right you could. It's insanity. I was just pondering some Bible verses before I came on here. There's a verse in, I think, 2 Kings and 1 Chronicles where it talks about King David. King David did a census. Apparently, Yahweh had commanded him to never count Israelites, but he went ahead and did it anyway. Now, one verse in 1st or 2nd Kings says that Satan, the adversary, wound up King David, essentially fucking with his free will, which happens all throughout the Old Testament, which throws out the free will argument. But we won't even touch on that. One book says that Satan, that's his real name, Satan, the adversary. And Satan and Lucifer are two different entities. I don't care what you've been told. They're two different entities. And the serpent in the garden was a different entity. Don't you think it would have said Satan or Lucifer instead of the serpent? Don't get me started. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, yeah, one verse says that Satan got David all riled up incited him to do the census. And then in Chronicles, it says Yahweh did. So let me get this straight. Either way, Satan is a vehicle of Yahweh, whether you want to admit it or not. Because if Yahweh is omnipotent and all-powerful and all-knowing, then he knows what Satan is doing at all times and condones it. There's no way out of it. You can't. He condones it. He lets it happen. Okay? And then that's when people bring the free will argument in, which I just tossed out the door. If Satan is instigating David to do a census, is that free will? If Yahweh is instigating, was that free will? Well, how does it in one book call it Yahweh instigating when another calls Satan? And are they interchangeable? Anyway, I'm pulling up to my mom and dad's. I got to run in here before I get my tooth pulled. So we will pick this discussion up later. But I hope it makes you guys think about certain things. It's been a very lonely journey, guys, and it's very scary when you break the conditioning of your religious programming and realize that's exactly what it is, programming. Because, I mean, I'm glad I found Gnosticism. Gnosticism, at first it seems like a mighty, mighty bizarre concept, and it seems far-fetched, but the more you study it, at least it tries to rationalize what we see in the world, and tries to rationalize, why can't I say rationalize? Rationalize. What the fuck was that? Rationalize. Tries to rationalize what the world around us and why it is the way that it is. Whereas the Bible doesn't do that at all. That's the most unrational thing that you could imagine. Anyway, gotta run. Love and light to you guys.